Hello, witchy people. You may be wondering why I'm sat here in the dark with nothing but a cup of coffee, a solitary lit candle, and a snoring dog to keep me company. Well, many years ago, I used to run a website called The Haunted ChaCha. And on that site, I would write down the tales that people had told me. Not necessarily ghost stories, just tales of strange happenings, weird goings on in strange places, eerie places, places that were supposedly haunted, maybe. So if you want to hear a few, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and I'll tell you some. Daylight is creeping in, and so I have just time for one last story this evening. This one is called Lost Child in a Rented Room. It was quite a sunny day when I got the frantic call from my friend Nancy. She telephoned me just as I was lazing on my balcony with a long cool drink in one hand and a great book in the other. "Please come," was the last few words she mumbled before putting down the phone. Nancy had not long found new digs. A bedsit not far from where I lived. She had lost everything she owned after a very bad breakup from a violent man. This man had been so violent that he had beaten Nancy when she was pregnant. Her child lived for only a few moments after birth, before dying in Nancy's arms. But she was healing, and this new bedsit was part of her new start. It was a big house, nicely laid out, with spacious, clean rooms. I got to the house at around midday, and Nancy ushered me into her room to meet another friend of hers called Michaela. "Watch," was all that Nancy said, as she guided me to sit on the bed tucked away in the corner of the room and scattered with huge cushions. Nancy walked over to the large television, sat diagonally opposite the bed. There was a photo there of Nancy's little baby who had died. She moved the photo a few inches to the right and then let go. The picture just stood there for a few moments before slowly sliding left until it returned to its original position. I couldn't believe my eyes. I checked behind the television. I picked up the photo frame and I looked at that. There was nothing unusual whatsoever. I asked Nancy to do it again. "You do it," she retorted, hands on hips, and quite smug at the look of shock on my face. Twice more I moved the photograph and watched the juddery small motions it made to return itself to where it belonged. Nancy was convinced that it was a sign, not from her little baby, but from someone or something else in the house. Nancy and Michaela told me of items going missing, slamming doors, giggling and disembodied laughter, and of people feeling as though someone were holding their hand just as they were falling asleep. Nancy had asked me to bring my cards. Now, I don't often do readings anymore. People expect too much, and it's so tiring. And I rarely, even back then, used the cards to try and link to spirits or strange goings on in old houses. From the whole pack, I only got to lay out 3 cards. Don't ask me how I knew, but I just did know something. I don't recall too much, but Nancy and Michaela wrote down what I said. After, so they claim, I went into a kind of trance. I had tears pouring down my face, and I just looked at them, imploring them to listen. This is a copy of what they had written down that afternoon, exactly as I tell you now. "Her name is Kate. Look at the card." I was tapping the friendship card laid on the table. "Look. She likes her white dress. It's for Sunday best. She doesn't want you to be lonely without your baby." I said this as I looked at Nancy. The photograph is there to remind you. Keep it safe. It might fall off. Maybe the television? If you move it. Nancy asked, "Why are you here?" And I replied, "She likes it here. She played here. Sundays were her favourite day. She doesn't like people to feel lonely." Nancy asked, "Is that why she holds our hand?" "She doesn't like people to feel lonely," I replied. "Her name is Kate. Just say hello." All the time, whilst this was going on, I was tapping the card that showed a little girl in a white dress. This card was a sign of friendships. I'll let you, the listener of this tale, into a secret. Child ghosts, or whatever they may be, make me feel more spooked than usual. It's a creepy phenomenon, but I never felt scared or freaked out whilst I was talking of this little girl, Kate. Not really that I recall much of it at all. I only have Nancy Michaela's word for what happened that afternoon. Nancy lived in that bedsit for almost a year. She and Michaela made a point of saying hello when a door opened, even when there was nobody there. They asked for missing items to be returned, and they were often found very shortly after. And if you asked Kate nicely, she wouldn't hold your hand at night. The houses that these bedsits were converted from are quite old, and there is, in historical records and censors, references to a person named Kate living there, but it is a very common name. No surname can be exactly verified. Subsequent tenants in that bedsit had reported similar things happening, but reports have lessened in time, and it appears that our mystery Kate is slowly fading.